Greetings, fellow barbarians. It is I, Alan Odinson, and this is the Barbarian Lounge podcast. I want to thank everybody for joining me today. We got an awesome interview lined up for you. A show that's honestly been a long time in the making. This is a show that I actually thought I would probably do very, very early in the podcasting days of the Barbarian Lounge. But here it is, episode 99, and it's the first time I'm doing this show. So I think you guys will really enjoy it. It's something a little different than what we normally do here. But the whole aspect of professional wrestling has been a huge part in my life. And there's a lot of things, a lot of misconceptions that people don't know about. So I think we'll get some good talks about that this evening. But let's go ahead and get some of that housekeeping out of the way. First off, our website is thebarbarianlounge.com. Go there and check it out. Got a lot of stuff up there. Archives. We're getting ready to update those archives coming up in the next, I'd probably say the next week or so, if I remember correctly. I want to be updating the episodes 80 through 89. So that should be going up pretty soon. As always, I urge you when you're there, check out our shop. Check out the Barbarian Lounge shop, the store there. And pick up one of our Thuggy Strangulation cords. As you know, here at the Barbarian Lounge, our goal is to make strangulation great again. And there's no better way to do so than picking up your very own, handcrafted by yours truly, Thuggy Strangulation cord from the Barbarian Lounge. Every single purchase goes to help support the broadcast, to help keep the lights on in this mofo. Also, while you're there, another way you can help support the Barbarian Lounge is to click on that donate button. By clicking on that donate button, you will have two options. One of those options is a one-time PayPal donation, which is absolutely as advertised. And we get several people that choose that option, and they are much appreciated. And usually, it's funny, those people typically don't like shout-outs, but a lot of times I don't like being told what to do, so I'll just say, John, I see you, brother, thank you. So the other option that you can employ is by becoming a member on our members site. That is clicking on that Patreon link. By clicking on that Patreon link, it will take you to our Patreon page where you can become a member on our members site. And basically, if you don't know how Patreon works, you do a donation, a per-episode donation. Now, we do a total of 8 shows per month, so if you do the bare minimum, which most people are doing around $2 a show now, but if you do the bare minimum of $1 an episode, that comes up to $8 a month to help support the Barbarian Lounge. I mean, I don't know what else, a lot of people right now, they talk about this fight's coming and that fight's coming and standing up for this right, standing up for that right. Well, the fact of the matter is there's only very few voices that are out there in the world of podcasting, the world of broadcasting, that are actually out there trying to make a difference, inspiring you to do better, as well as taking up the shield and the sword and standing on the front line. And the only way we can maintain that line to keep the enemy at bay is with constant support from our listeners. So support your local broadcasters, support your local podcasters, support the Barbarian Lounge. As a member, you're entitled to certain perks. One of those is you get all of our 4 regular shows early, ahead of time of most people. Sometimes it's only a few days, but most of the time it's about a week ahead of time when I release those shows. So a lot of people, by the time you're listening to this show, most people done listening to it for about a week now. Okay, so that's one of the perks. The other perk is that you get access to our full archives dating all the way back to episode 1. Yes, most of those archives were attacked and destroyed last year when they tried to bring down this show, but like the Phoenix, we have risen again, and all of our broadcasts are archived right there on our members site. The other benefit that you get, which is a massive entitlement, I must say, is that you get 4 exclusive broadcasts each month for members only. Yes, that's right. A total of 8 shows from the Barbarian Lounge. Most people are only listening to the free stuff that we put out on the open airwaves, and that's 4 shows a month. You're missing half the show right now. Right now, we are up to, and those are all archived as well on the Barbarian Lounge member site there. But I think we're up to episode 64, 65 in our member shows. So while I'm at episode 99 here, man, we are well past the 100 episode mark. Okay, so go there, man. Become a member, get access to those archives, and see what you've been missing, and help support the Barbarian Lounge. I also urge you to support our sponsors, Odinson Archery, traditional bows made from non-traditional materials. Go there, check it out. If you've ever wanted to get into the world of archery, Odinson Archery is the path that archers from the beginning stages all the way to the advanced stages are beginning to follow. It's a small business that is challenging the iron rule that is held by the larger archery corporations that are out there. There are some that, man, they have taken over the archery world, and they tend to want to step on and stomp out most small businesses through disinformation campaigns, mockery, whatever you want to call it. But Odinson Archery is standing firm, and we are pushing back against the big corporations out there that are running the archery business right now. So go there, check it out. Admission to the Brotherhood of the Bow has never been more affordable than it is with Odinson Archery. OdinsonArchery.com. Our other sponsor I urge you to check out Aaron P. Cable at PTAF's Fitness. Yes, that's right. In-person or online training today. If you haven't checked this out, I always add this to the show notes page on every single episode that we do since they became a sponsor. And I urge you to click on that link. I don't want you guys to have to spend too many mental calories in trying to, search this and search that online. Just go there. I leave a link. Click on it. It will take you to our page. And just take a look at this chick, man. She knows her craft. Let me just tell you. Let's see. Offering personal training, cardio training, weight training, youth fitness. Oh, I stop every week at youth fitness because, man, that is a big one. Small group training. So if you've got a small group or a tribe that you're looking, maybe there's a few people that are looking a tad bit soft. Well, check them out, Aaron P. Cable. Conditioning for combat sports. Her husband's a combat sports athlete, so she knows that game as well. Nutrition counseling. If you need to count all your macros and all that good stuff, don't be a fat boy and only count your macaroni. Count your macros, and Aaron P. Cable will show you how to do that. So check them out. There's a link there. You can find them on Facebook, Aaron Page Cable, PTAS Fitness. I will leave a link in the show notes page for you to click on. As always, you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, all that good stuff. I think that's about it. Quick shout out to our network, UCY.TV, all the folks over there at UCY.TV. A big hail from the Odinson, from Odinson Archery as well, but from Alan Odinson and the Barbarian Lounge podcast. There's a live chat that goes on over there every Tuesday. You can check us out over there and have a conversation with the folks over there at UCY.TV. I think it's going to wrap it up so let's go ahead and get into the content of the main portion here. So you guys have probably heard me talk about pro wrestling before, but I could just do a regular show about my stories of pro wrestling and everything, but I wanted to get somebody that's currently in the business. And no, I'm not talking about WWE superstars or, any kind of shit like that. I'm talking about somebody that's in the grinding world of the indie scene. And a lot of people are completely oblivious to what goes on in the world of independent wrestling. And I think you guys are going to be quite surprised at the world of indie wrestling, as well as being introduced to a term that is now starting to come to fruition here in the United States. I've known about it for a while, but you're going to learn a little bit about strong style professional wrestling as well. So sit back, grab yourself some popcorn, get comfortable, because we're getting ready to talk about some awesome pro wrestling. So with my boy Billy Warlock. So stay tuned here, guys, and I will see you guys on the other side. All right, I am on the line with pro wrestling extraordinaire, Mr. Billy Warlock. What's going on, brother?
How you doing, man?
Good. I've been wanting to do this show for a long time. We're all the way up to episode 99, and I kept telling myself I'm going to do a pro wrestling show, going to do a pro wrestling show, but I wanted to wait until I had somebody who's currently in the business, and I've known you for quite a while now, and I figured, why not? We'll get Billy Warlock on. So thank you for being here in the Barbarian Lounge.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. I follow the podcast and love what you're doing, and when you talked to me originally about it a while back, I was like, yeah, that'd be cool. And then we just kind of let it sit on the back burner. And when you hit me up again, I'm like, yeah, we need to do this. What the hell?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, tell everybody a little bit about yourself. What you do, where you work out of, and all the stuff like that.
Well, been in the business itself for quite a while. I don't even like to talk about it. Almost as long as I've been in martial arts, this is going into year number 37 for martial arts experience. Started when I was a pup and just continued now that I'm an old gray dog. Been here, there, and everywhere. Originally got a taste for pro wrestling. I wrestled in high school, did martial arts, like I said. My dad actually introduced me to a old grizzled man in Norfolk by the name of Lou Thez, and I'm like, what is this old man going to show me? And after a couple of workouts and getting the puke squeezed out of me, legit, I've had a love for the business, and I mean the real side of the business, not the spot monkeys that we see running around today. And that's kind of what I've kept going through my entire career is, I don't throw super kick parties. If I do, it's gonna hurt. So, I've wrestled throughout the Carolinas, Virginia. Now we're actually making a run with my promotion, and we're going to be moving into West Virginia here in the next couple of months, co-promoting a show with a guy I've been friends with for a long time, Carnage. And, he came to me a couple months back, and he's like, hey, man, let's advance this. Let's move into another state and start branching out. And so, I mean, we're growing. We're getting bigger and bigger. We actually have a Fight TV deal in place. As soon as this new TV studio gets up and running, hopefully within the next week or so. We've had so many delays and changes, it hadn't been funny, but once we get that, we'll actually be producing content for Fight TV, and fans everywhere across the globe will be able to check out Strong Style Pro.
Oh, that's amazing, because a lot of people don't know you can get Fight TV. I think Fight TV will air on the free app Pluto TV. Sometimes you can find Fight TV airing on there, so people can check Strong Style out on there. That'll be awesome. See, now it's
well, if you get the free Fight TV app on your phone too, that you can get a lot of the content. And as of right now, I think our content is going to be part of the free streaming package that we're going to be putting out there too. So
yeah, that's
definitely,
awesome.
Man. Keep an eye out.
Well, with most people aren't really aware of strong style. For a while, strong style's been around for a while, but a lot of people are just starting to learn about it because of Shinsuke Nakamura now in the WWE. People are starting to hear about strong style, and really, what you see from Shinsuke now is not even really it's not the same stuff he was doing in Japan. Tell people a little bit the difference between strong style versus what we see here in America.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and put my disclaimer out. You just opened a can of worms, and I apologize if I offend, but not really apologize, if you know what I mean. Because my opinions tend to polarize folks. What you're seeing out of Nakamura now is WWE Strong Style. It's Strong Style Light. Mm-hmm. Strong Style in Japan the actual evolution was back in 73, which ironically enough was the year I was born. Antonio Inoki and several of those guys got together, and after training with Carl Gotch, Lou Thez, Billy Robinson, guys like that that did the touring in Japan for the NWA and various other promotions, AWA and stuff like that, they took the martial arts of Japan and, well, Asia entirely, because you have guys like Fujiwara that was a Muay Thai expert, did kickboxing, submission grappling, and judo. And they took judo, jiu-jitsu, they had influences from sambo. You have Saw, submission arts wrestling, that comes out of Japan also. It's a
Hidetaka Aso, right? Hidetaka Aso? Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
For Saw.
Matter of fact, I'm actually going to be pursuing a little bit more intently my black belt in Saw, because I've got a purple belt now, and I put it back on the back burner. And, with me getting back into the more of the rebirth of the strong style wrestling and trying to show the fans what we've got and what strong style really is, it's something that's kind of near and dear to my heart. My brother and I have been talking about it, and he's been pushing the fact, hey, you've been doing this a while, you don't need to be worrying about any more black belts or anything like that. You're already mean enough. You don't need to do it. But strong style, it has to evolve. It's got to be something that's a living, breathing entity. And strong style in Japan was just that. You had a bunch of shooters, old school guys that could hurt you from any position, any angle, that would get out there and test it against judo, jiu-jitsu, sambo, anybody that wanted to get in there. And then if they found something that worked within the style, they would absorb it and bring it in. Mm-hmm. And strong style was really just that. It was professional wrestling on 11. Mm-hmm. It wasn't gimmicked up. It was, a bunch of guys getting out there using legit submissions, legit punches and kicks. And that's why for years they banned the closed fist. Mm-hmm. Because closed fists, it causes bruising and contusions. Palm heel, you could break bones. Mm-hmm. And they decided, hey, palm heel to the body, nothing above the neck. That way the fights wouldn't end in so-called knockouts, because you could get in there and pound on the guy, use the open hand to make him open up and create an opportunity for a submission. And, that's the style they had. It was very rough and tumble. It wasn't, I think you're probably familiar with the phrase, it wasn't the gentle art. Josh Barnett popularized it a few years back when he said, jiu-jitsu is the gentle art. Catch wrestling is the brutal art. It's, right. It's mean.
Right.
I take that as a compliment.
Right, exactly. I agree. Yeah, it's a completely different world. A lot of people think that catch wrestling is just jiu-jitsu without the gi. And it's a completely different mindset. It's completely... if somebody tells me they're a catch wrestler, and I can watch them just get in side control, just something as simple as side control, watch them get into side control and tell if they've actually worked on catch wrestling or if it's just they're just practicing jiu-jitsu with no gi on. I mean, something that simple, like you can tell the difference. You can tell by the way, they're using their elbows, their forearms, are they doing knee on belly, but also doing knee on face? Things like that. Old hamburger ride, right?
Oh yeah. And that's the thing. Catch wrestling was the inspiration behind strong style. So if you're a strong style wrestler, then you should be well versed in catch. If you're not, then you're cheating yourself and you're cheating the fans out of what actually strong style is. Mm-hmm. Strong style is real wrestling in a professional wrestling ring.
Right.
We're already magicians. As pro wrestlers, I jokingly, I've said it 1,000 times, we're physical magicians. We're there to suspend disbelief and make you believe something that you really know is not happening in front of you, but you can't convince your mind that it's not.
Right. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, professional wrestling it's supposed to be a fight, right? I mean, everybody knows it's work. It's choreographed. Okay, gotcha. But if I can take that 2 or 3 fans or convince a whole arena full of people, mm-hmm. Jesus, he just tried to kill that guy.
Right.
And I've had fans come up to me after events and go, man, I thought professional wrestling, I thought you guys actually liked each other. No, I don't like it. I may actually like him. I may go get a beer with him after. But when we're in that ring, it's about the payday. And if I don't come out on top, I can't get bigger paydays.
That's it.
If I don't make myself look good, and I don't make him look good in the process, we can't get that suspension of disbelief. I may have he may be the biggest cupcake on the face of the planet, never been in a fight in his real life ever. But if I can get him in that ring and we can look like we have a convincing fight, everybody from then on out is going to look at him and go, that guy's a badass. Mm-hmm. And I take pride in making people look like badasses, and I try to look like one myself too. So
right, and that's a big portion that a lot of people don't really think about in the world of pro wrestling. Because you get those people that are all into it. Oh man, I just want to go over tonight. Man, can I go over tonight? They get so caught up in who's going to go over, but they don't understand like it's a dance of violence. Like we're working together, and we have to make it look good. If it's not looking looking good. If I don't make you look good, then you don't make me look good, we both look like shit. It doesn't do us any good at all. In that, in the ring, I used to have those guys. You've probably been in there with them before, and I think a lot of people. It's weird for some people to see this. They're like, "Oh, that's just crazy." But I've been in there with some guys before that, I'm there to make them look good. And they aren't necessarily there to make me look good. There's the blown spots. There's, different, they're not selling when they should be selling. And that is where, even like we talk about like the catch stuff, having the ability to take control of an opponent that is maybe going a little too fast. You get those people that go in there and work like lightning. And it's like,
yes.
To be able to put them in a hold and say, all right, you need to slow down a minute, and let's, are we going to work together, or are we just this going to be a fight? Because either one's cool with me,
And I have had that exact conversation. I one of my favorite, I don't believe in rest holds. The smart marks will hear the term, oh, he had him in a rest hold. There's no such thing. There's wrestling holds. Mm-hmm. But there's no such thing as a rest hold. Mm-hmm. If I've got a hold on, one of the more popular ones is like a front face lock. Mm-hmm. I have what I call the front face lock challenge at my school. If you think pro wrestling is fake, come in and let me put the front face lock on you. And we'll lay on the ground just like we do in a pro wrestling match. And since it's fake, you're not going to feel anything. So if you can escape my front face lock before you tap out, mm-hmm. I'll give you $100. Mm-hmm. You'll walk out $100 richer. So far in the 4 or 5 years that I've been training and coaching guys, I have not had one successful completion of that task. Mm-hmm. Because once we get on the ground, they realize that that's not a rest hold. It's not just there to give me an opportunity to keep my fat ass from, having a heart attack in mid-ring. It's there because we're working that hold. Mm-hmm. And that's what a lot of these guys don't think. They get in there and it's so, like you said, it's that I got to go over. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to throw a bad name out here probably, but I call it the young buck mentality. They want to get all this stuff in.
Super kick.
They want to get all. Oh God, yeah. And dude, there's nothing that bothers me any more than that than to see the same move 65 times and you think it looks cool. It's crazy, man. That's not how you tell a story in that ring.
Right. Well, that's like, I've recently started, I actually stopped watching pro wrestling for a while, and I got back into what actually got me started back watching it was we got like a Hulu subscription, and they show NXT on there. And I started watching NXT, and NXT is probably of Americanized wrestling. NXT is some of the better stuff that's on right now. And I started watching. I think the night I tuned in, I think the main event was Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne, and I was just like, and those are two guys from British Strong Style, if I'm not mistaken. And and a story, good spots, realistic looking fight almost. And you got Tyler Bate headbutting him in the chest, and Pete Dunne breaking fingers. It's just, and it's all done in a way that both guys look good, and you could tell neither one of those guys really cared who went over. It was all about the show and making it look good. But that's few and far between. That's not like John Cena and The Undertaker or some shit like that.
Oh God! I'll give hats off to NXT and Triple H, Paul Levesque. I'll give him hats off because he has went above and beyond since he's been more hands on with getting the product booked and put out there, with getting legit people. Mm-hmm. He's got. Well, look at NXT. Shayna Baszler is getting ready to go up for the NXT Women's Championship. Realistically, those of us that have followed her mixed martial arts career and know what she's done as far as catch wrestling and training with folks like Josh Barnett and Billy Robinson and stuff like that, we know that realistically, this fight's going to be one-sided. Mm-hmm. But every time she's got in the ring with Ember Moon, another talented, wrestler, she gets in there with her, the fight looks so violent, so realistic, mm-hmm. but yet it still tells the story.
Right.
And that is, I jokingly incorporate that kind of thing in with the comment I made about Nakamura. That's strong style light, because that's as far as WWE wants to get into it, mm-hmm. but it is a step in the right direction. It's a whole lot better than, the days, a few years ago where you had wrestlers that couldn't tell you a real wrist lock from a wristwatch.
Mm-hmm.
If you said, show me how this hold works, they're going to put the show hold on, but they've got no go in the gas tank. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
They couldn't tell you, in strong style wrestling, you're talking about being off of being an actual technique by millimeters, not inches, just a couple of millimeters.
Mm-hmm.
Top wrist lock, for example. You know as well as I do, you've been doing combat arts for a while. If I apply a standing top wrist lock, you're not going to go into a beautiful rainbow back arch and then power your way back up.
Right.
The physics of the body will not let it happen. It's once you get that center of balance, that's where the mutual respect, the mutual work comes in, is once you get past that center of balance in the body, I've got to help you back up.
Mm-hmm.
Does it look good? Do the fans think, the weaker guy is now coming back, rah, 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 cheer for the good guy. That's where the showmanship comes in.
Mm-hmm.
If it was a real fight, you're getting dumped on your ass, and I'm going to torque that wrist that I just took you back over with, and the fight's done. Or I'm going to break your wrist.
Right.
One of the two.
Right.
We're always millimeters away from a legit hold, and if you're not, then you're not working the hold. You've got some kind of showy bullshit slapped on that is not going to be effective at all.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my biggest thing with pro wrestling today. It's making a shift back. I'll say that and make it sound like I'm being at least a little positive about it. I don't want to be the guy that craps everything. But it's trying to make a shift back. But you've got those show holds out there. I love watching the athleticism of like lucha libre.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes me cringe when I look at their submissions, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand.
It's so over the top, and you look at it and you go, "There's no way that would happen in a real fight."
Mm-hmm.
That's my goal, and that's one reason that I founded Strong Style Pro Wrestling, is because we have promotions out there that live for that stuff. You're more of a gymnast than you are a wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's not the way it used to be. Guys that I already mentioned, you got guys like Paul Gotch, Billy Rodriguez, when they were actually active and on, like the NWA roster, the AWA roster, all these companies that they worked for in Japan, the reason they got their pushes and they were so well respected is because everybody knew they were not the guy to F with in the locker room.
Right.
You didn't try to double cross them in the ring, because if that's not what was booked, you're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
And it's crazy the way the business shifted to that model, where it was more of an athletic event than it was a wrestling match.
Yeah, it became sports entertainment.
Yeah, and I hate that term.
Yeah. but you were talking about with like Luthez. I've got a video somewhere around here that's like the best of Luthez or something like that. And they have a clip, it's old VHS tape. They have a clip of him in the ring in Japan working with some of the guys ahead of time, showing them real holds. Like this is a real double wrist lock. Or Kimura for you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys that are listening. A Brazilian, an actual double wrist lock. He's showing how it's done, and he's got these guys hurting. I mean, they're and he's throwing them to the mat, and you can tell these guys they're not just laying there and letting themselves get beat up. These guys are trying to move around, and people just forget how, like, a guy like Luthez, I mean, that guy was a legit wrestler. Same with Gotch. Same thing. There's some. I've got an old grappling magazine with Carl Gotch in there, showing some of the different holds. And I mean, it's just, you look at these things, and these are things that work. I mean, classic example. Talk about strong style wrestlers. Kazushi Sakuraba. Coming from UWF, I believe, is that correct? UWF, I think.
Yeah, no? UWF 5.
Yeah, he came from them, and first UFC, it's just a pro wrestler guy, and then he sees armbarring Conan Silveira, and it's like, what the hell? Where'd this guy come from? And that's what you're talking about. He instead of just going, halfway with the submission. He took it the whole way, right? So I mean, it's pretty awesome. Pick back up with Sakuraba. So for those of you who are listening now, I had a wonderful things with technology, wonderfully crashing on me in the middle of an interview, which I always love happening. So we were talking about Kazushi Sakuraba. So if you can remember everything you just said about Kazushi Sakuraba, go ahead.
Brother, I have had 13 concussions. I'm lucky I remember my name. But Sakuraba, I use him as the example. The Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys around here where I'm at, pro wrestling is this, it's fake, it's that, and the other, and I have to remember, and I remind these guys all the time, your heroes, the Gracies. Who was the first guy to beat a Gracie? Kazushi Sakuraba. Mm-hmm. Who's the guy that went on the winning tear and earned the nickname the Gracie Hunter? Kazushi Sakuraba. Mm-hmm. Guess what? Pro wrestling ain't as weak as you think it is, especially if it's trained right and you're taught properly. Mm-hmm. It's wrestling. Adding professional in front of it should actually be more of a warning than a joke. Mm-hmm. Because if you're a professional, you should be doing this enough to be so damn proficient, you're dangerous.
Right. Well, I even flash back to, and this is, again, it's another old VHS tape I used to have of, I don't know, did you ever see, for anybody that's familiar with old school like ECW, when Taz was in ECW, did you ever see Taz overseas hook the guy in a half Nelson suplex and dump him on his head? In one of those...
I actually felt that. We were in Concord, North Carolina. It was one of the last times that ECW came through the Carolinas before they did the shutdown and the whole buyout deal and everything. And I went down specifically with the opportunity to be able to get in the ring, work ring crew, get to talk to some of these guys and maybe get a foot in the door. Mm-hmm. Well, I got my foot in the door just enough to talk to Taz, and he's the guy that told me, because back then I was running all kind of stupid gimmicks in the business. And he told me, he said, your background, your skill set, my phone's going off being crazy now. He said, with your skill set, he said, why in the hell aren't you being what you are? He said, I'm walking proof. He said, we're the same height, about the same build. He said, why in the hell are you letting these promoters give you these stupid gimmicks to do when you've got the skill set to be the baddest son of a bitch in the locker room? Mm-hmm. And I will never forget that. And we're standing there in the ring, and I was like, I appreciate the advice. I appreciate you working with me. And then I did the stupidest thing I've ever done in my life. I said, can I take a Tazplex just so I can get that off my bucket list? And, of course, he kind of laughed, and he's like, sure. And dropped me on my head, and I can tell you right now, he was one of the most legit guys I have ever seen step in those ropes, because he had that kind of experience. He had that kind of knowledge. Mm-hmm. And today, that's why Catch almost dried up and died out for a long period of time, is because those old school guys, they got so discouraged with the worker mentality. Mm-hmm. We're going to get in there and we're going to do this and we're going to make it so cool and we're going to do this and that spot and that spot. And they got so discouraged because nobody actually wanted to deal with the physicality of the training that they stopped teaching it. Mm-hmm. They just pretty much, almost an entire generation of wrestler went by without getting any of that knowledge. And then you've got the Japanese guys that got so thirsty for it, man. They lit a fire under their asses when they saw what real wrestling was about. They were so enamored with it that they traveled across the world. You got the original UWFI crew, Nobuhiko Takeda, Sakuraba, guys like Minoru Suzuki, who is still with New Japan now, and still a badass. Yeah. Watch this man.
Yes, he is.
As they traveled from Japan all the way to Florida to train with Carl Gotch. Mm-hmm. It's when you get that kind of a fire lit under you that you got to do it, then the physicality behind it it's kind of its own reward. You know that there's nothing that these guys that know nothing can do to you that can hurt worse than the guys that showed you what to do. Mm-hmm. It sounds crazy, but strong style is very empowering to me. Because when I get in that ring, I don't care how many years of experience, that guy's got across from me. I know that there's nothing that can go down that I can't deal with it. I mean, right up to the point of breaking bones, tearing muscles, which I've done all of that in ring. And the fun part of it is I've done probably worse to my own body in training. So I'm not scared of what can happen in there. But you've also got to be aware, shit happens. You could land on your neck wrong and that's it. You're done. You're not moving anymore or you're gone. And these new guys, they take so many risks with their bodies. You can tell such a wonderful story. I mean, you can write an epic, War and Peace epic in that ring between those ropes without taking half of those risks. And you'll have the audience out of their seats, on their feet, and cheering their heads off by the end of it. And you get to go home. You're going to be sore the next day, yeah, but you're still not going to run the risk of never being able to walk again.
Right.
It's crazy the way the business developed like that over a few years and got away from the safer stuff. I mean, even going back to guys like Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair back in their heyday in the late 70s, early 80s, on up through to the 90s, when that generation of wrestler were out there, they were learning how to work without all that crazy stuff. And it was legit based in real wrestling, but with that showmanship added. But they were going out there and they were wrestling 5, 6, 7 times a week. Sometimes 8 times a week because they'd wrestle 2 shows on a Sunday. And yet they were still able to continue and do that. Yet you got guys now that they go out and if they wrestle once a month on a big pay-per-view, they might can make one other house show that month because their body's so beat up from doing the acrobatic junk that they got to spend, 5 hours in an ice bath to recover enough to wipe their ass. Right. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and that's one thing that a lot of people don't think about too when it comes to, you're talking about the training aspect. I tell people all the time, man. Now I've been in combat sports, for going on 20 years now. Been in combat sports, MMA. I boxed. I've done jiu-jitsu, submission grab, all those things. Nothing has destroyed my body in a quicker amount of time than professional wrestling did. Every single nagging injury I have right now is all from professional. And I did pro wrestling for like 6, 7 years. So, I took enough damage in that small amount of time to actually still feel it to this day. Both of my ankles are wrecked. I still have, when my back went out, that's from doing some of those, when I was young and started doing some of those stupid ass bumps. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I remember, let me tell you, I'll tell you a funny story here. So, I wrestled at an SCW in South Carolina, wrestling SCW, and we were doing this. It was like a 6-man hardcore match, crazy thing, right? And I had made the decision that when we walked down a wooden ramp, okay, and it was the wooden ramp was just outside the ring, and I had made the decision that I was like, the ramp felt really rickety and everything, and I made the decision that I was going to go through that ramp tonight. Oh, and my plan was to dive off the ring apron and bump onto the ramp, and I figured I could crack it and go right through it, right? Well, I did that spot. I had to move and, roll out the way, and I did the spot. And let me tell you something, man. That ramp was a lot stronger than it looked. Because when I landed, it said thump and nothing cracked but my back. And I was like, I remember one of the guys that was with us, he comes walking over and he comes to pick me up, and I just looked at him. I was like, you're going to have to give me a minute. Go grab somebody else, dude. I am fucked right now. I was in bad shape. But doing those stupid bumps like that, man, that stuff, it all sounds cool and it's all fun, but it looks great on tape and all that. But at the end of the day, man, it's a lot of show for not as much go,
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at guys like Jeff Hardy. I've met Jeff several times. He's a very good guy.
Yep.
I hate that he's, had all the issues he's had, and it stems from the pain and the torture that he's put on his body. And, you look at somebody like that who's got, an insane amount of athletic ability, and you look at the damage they've done to your body, by going off of these 15, 20-foot ladders and going through 5 tables at a time and, these crazy swantons from, 25, 30 feet in the air, and all this other crazy stuff that he's done. And now his body, the last time I saw him was actually a couple years ago at a Impact show that they did here in Virginia that I worked. And, I almost, if I didn't know his hairstyle and what he looked like, I wouldn't have realized I was looking at Jeff Hardy, because he got out of the Escalade when he pulled into the building, and I look over and here's this guy getting out and he's got a folding cane, and I'm like, who is this? When did they hire somebody geriatric? And then he slides out, puts his feet down, and when I saw his face, I'm like, oh my God, are you for real? And he proceeded to walk in like a 90-year-old, leaning on this cane because his hips were hurting so bad from a show they had done like 2 nights previous at another venue.
Yeah.
Dude, I'll be 45 this year. I'm not going to kill myself like that. I figure I've done enough to my body that when I get 65, 70 years old, God willing I make it that far, I'm going to already be on a walker, a cane, and a wheelchair all at once. So, I'm not going to take those crazy chances, even with the level of conditioning that, I put my body through. And there's so many young kids out there today that say they want to get into business, and that's why one of my tryouts, I always tell them, hey, first class is free, guys. You guys come out, if you get through the first class and you still want to do it, hey, we'll get you in there, we'll see what you can do. That first class normally runs about 3.5 to 4 hours. Consists of a lot of squats, a lot of Hindu push-ups. It's very old school. You'll run the ropes until you yak, and if you feel like keep going after that, guess what? Then we're going to do like up downs. We're going to do drop down drills and stuff like that. We've got a particularly nasty drill that we do, literally climbing the ropes and using nothing but your hands, nothing but your feet to go 1 2 1 2 1 2 to the top rope. And then walk your feet along the top rope to the next corner where you can walk down, and then you turn around and do it with your upper body.
Nice.
So I try to show them that if you don't have your body ready for this, this is not croquet. This is not basket weave. We're not a non-contact sport. And that's one thing that the media has jumped in there and said, when Vince McMahon came out and killed kayfabe, because he didn't want to pay taxes. Everybody said, "Oh, it's fake, it's fake, it's fake." Well, first off, you can't fake fucking gravity. You can't. Period. Not doing it. So when you come down from 12, 13, 14 feet in the air, it hurts. Mm-hmm. Second of all, it ain't a trampoline. You know that as well as I do.
Yes, sir.
You've got steel beams and 2x12s on top of it. Mm-hmm. A little bit of padding and a piece of canvas.
Yep.
It's not like you're getting in a pillow fight. If you want something soft and active, hey, the new rage over in Japan is professional pillow fighting. You go over there and, you beat the crap out of each other with pillow fighting. And that's what you need to do. Because it is physical, it'll hurt you, and if you don't condition it, then your body's not going to last that long. Your career is going to be very short.
Yeah, a lot of people, that's one of the biggest misconceptions that people have, is they see everybody bumping, but they're like, oh, well, the ring must be a trampoline. And it's like, no, that's the very first thing. I can tell you, the ring that I worked in mainly in ECPW here locally, that was one of the more stiff rings that I had the chance to work in. It was solid, built ring. Now, you do know, I'm sure, working up and down the East Coast, you do get some of those rings that are pretty, they're more of a softer bump, but they're typically shitty rings, too. Like, you're uncomfortable, like, taking a bump in them, because you may get a 2x4 to the back of the head when you go down, But, when I remember when I was training, we went out to, I don't know if you know Susan Green out here in South Carolina. She's done a little bit of work with she's worked with the WWE in the past, but that back when they were WWF. But anyway, her ring out there they're like, oh, you're going to go work with Susan Green. I said, okay, cool. We get out there in this little barn, and her ring is literally a boxing ring. and it's like there's...
Ouch.
You step up, you're walking on the floor, and you step up, and you're in the ring. There's no steps, no nothing, so it's that low to the ground. And she's like, okay, we're going to bump, and I'm like, oh my God, you know, I'm going to go outside. It's much cheaper on my body just to bump outside on the concrete than in this ring. But a lot of people think those rings, man, they're bouncy, and man, they are hard. There's nothing to it.
Yeah, one of the training rings that I got in North Carolina, and it was one of those shady deals. I had a guy that approached me at a show, and he's like, you know, hey, come out to my house. I run a training school. I'd like to bring you out and, you know, get you to share some information with the guys and this stuff. I'm like, yeah, man, that would be awesome. Well, GPS takes me out to the point where I swear to God there was bandwidth. You know, and I pull up to the house. There's a big barn that they train in. Talking about this big training barn. I walk around the house. There is literally an old 2-car garage that they have taken like a sawzall and cut the rack. So when you stand on the top rope, your head is in the top of the rack. You have to look this way you jump, or else you're going to headbutt a rack. And this was with the ring being nothing but the 2x12. It stood on its end. So the 2-inch side on the bottom, 2x12 standing straight up. I'm like, never seen a ring like this. I get it. I took one bump, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, how is this thing built? Like, oh, I made it at home, and I'm like, oh shit. You know, how did you make it? What is it made out of? So he takes the canvas off and gives it back to his corner, and it's got plywood. I'm thinking, okay, that's not unusual. You know, I prefer 2x12. You know, a little more safer. You're not going to go through. If one 2x12 breaks, you still got 2 on each side. It's going to keep you from going straight through the steel or the floor. But he picks up a piece of plywood, laying on top, and instead of having steel crossbeams or anything that give the ring a little bit of flex, or even a thinner spring that will give it a little bit of flex, he's got old car tires laying on, and just laid out here, just a straight line pattern across through there, you know, covering the whole bottom of it. And I'm like, are you crazy?
I think your audio's breaking up on me again, buddy.
Lovely.
Oh, there you are.
All right, there I am. Okay.
Okay, I don't know what happened.
But, you know, I told him, like you said, man. I was like, you know, it's easier to bump on the ground than it is in this thing.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you know, and, you know, most of the rings I worked in were pretty well built, but the other thing a lot of people don't think about is, you know, hitting the ropes. Hitting the ropes. Just running the ropes is some of the best cardio you can get for one, and running the ropes will beat you up when you're not used to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, depending on the ring, WWE uses the 2-inch manila rope, the thicker manila rope, and to me, and they wrap it with tape, yeah, but I've already been beat up enough. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't want to hit rope that's rough and, you know, stuff like that, so I prefer the wrapped cable.
Yeah, that's what we have.
My ring uses, we upgraded it, and, you know, I have hydraulic cable, you know, wrapped around steel airplane strength cable, you know, like 1,500 pound test cable. And we took and put vinyl hydraulic hose around it because it's a little bit thicker. It offers a little bit of padding. But once you get those things tight where you can do the high flying maneuvers, once you get in there where you climb the ropes and stuff like that, it will knock the crap out of you.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a guy that came in there and he was trying to run the ropes and he was hitting them ribs first.
Oh.
You know, he was doing what I told him. You know, he's putting his arm over the rope to catch in case anything went south and the rope broke, and, you know, he had to protect himself from hitting the ground. But, you know, he's hitting them ribs first and leaning in, and the whole time he's doing it, I'm like, you need to stop. You need to stop. Flat back. Flat back. And he's like, oh, no, this feels more natural. I was like, look, dude, no offense. I don't care what feels natural. This is to protect you.
Yeah.
And the next day, he did it. He tried it flat back a couple of times. He called me the next day and he's like, man, I'm not going to be able to come to training tonight. I was like, why? He's like, because my side looks like I just called Sandman a bitch and got caned.
I believe it.
So, it's done specifically to give yourself the most protection possible. It's still impact.
Mm-hmm.
It's still rough on the body.
Oh yeah.
The moves themselves. Any of my guys that have trained with me for the 4 years I've been running a school will tell you, I always show them how to work the hold. Then I show them how to apply the hold. Because that was one of the things. I did not train with Luthez long. I'm not going to be one of those guys that sit, Luthez student, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. I trained right at the end when Lou was getting ready to shut down the Norfolk School of Wrestling, go have the hip surgery and move to Florida. So, it was not one of those things where I was a, well-known person there. It wasn't like I was there for, 2 years, whatever, a couple of months tops. I was a snot-nosed 13, 14-year-old high school wrestler my dad was the one that took me over there and said, hey, you need to see what the old school guys do. You need to see what real wrestling is. And as a wrestler, amateur wrestler, I took offense to that. I had done martial arts too, and I was like, real wrestlers? What am I? But after going in there, I understood what my dad meant. It was a different mentality. Amateur wrestling is a tough sport. It can be brutal. But when you add the submissions and stuff along with the pins and the rides and everything, wrestling, man, you've got a whole different beast.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I went in there, Luthez hit me with, several different, pearls of wisdom, me just hanging around the gym and being the little gym fly and, working out with the guys here, there, and everywhere when I could and when they would let me, And one of the things he always said, was first think, shoot, then work. And that's what I've always tried to apply in ring. When I apply a hold, if, you've got MMA experience, you know what you're looking at when you watch combat sports. I want to be the guy that when you watch a pro wrestling match, when you look at it, you go, damn, he's actually got that armbar on.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be that millimeter or two off where I'm not killing the guy and breaking his bones, but where the guy that's educated and knows what he's looking at, where I can, once again, we go back to that physical magician thing, where I can suspend your disbelief. Because if I can draw you into my story and make you think that this is a legit fight and I'm trying to break this guy's arm off, then the casual fan is going to look at it and go, oh my God,
mm-hmm.
Did he go nuts and really try to hurt this guy?
Right.
And that's what I want. That's the new modern day kayfabe, is you've got to be educated enough to do the stuff that these guys would do in a real fight, a real submission, and then be able to draw the audience in and wonder whether or not are we trying to legit beat each other? Are we working together? Or, is one of us going rogue and trying to, to beat the crap out of the other guy? And that's what I look for. I try to get the fans to draw in like that, and that's what strong style is to me. It is legit wrestling where if tested, I can use it. I'm not one of these guys that, you're going to throw down on the mat and we're going to go to chain wrestle and I'm going to lay there and let you do it all. I'm going to actually counter. We're going to re-counter, and then we're going to work technique in after technique, and we're going to go tit for tat.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. That's where professional wrestling needs to get back to, is real wrestlers with real techniques.
And it's funny. I remember when I was working shows, is you get in there and we'd have a guy say something like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna start the match off. We're doing some chain wrestling." It's like, okay, cool. So you're going through because if you're somebody that's from a martial arts background, you've done catch, you've done some jiu-jitsu, you've done actual combat sports. Your idea of what chain wrestling is, a lot of times will differ from those people that, their idea of chain wrestling is I'm going to work the arm, then I'm going to work to a hammer lock, then I'm going to go to a headlock, and, and it's pretty much like that. Whereas someone who's, of that mentality. They're thinking, okay, I'm gonna work the arm. I'm gonna go to hammerlock. I'm gonna go to a headlock, drop toe hold, spin around, take the front face lock. And you're thinking well ahead of that. I remember me and a guy, a good buddy of mine. He actually just did a dark match for NXT. I think Vordell Walker.
Know the name.
You know Vordell, yeah. And funny story. Vordell probably kill me if he knew I told this, because it kind of makes him kind of weird. But sometimes like the veteran wrestlers that have been in the game a while, they'll want to take liberties sometimes with some of the younger guys. It does happen. Yeah. Vordell had an incident where he got into a bit of a. It was all over the internet, so it's not like I'm breaking any news here. But he got into a bit of a scrap with Rick Steiner at a show, because Rick Steiner started shooting on him. And Vordell, me and Vordell used to roll before the show, so I know, like, he's a tough dude. And Vordell his nickname was the Shooter. He could kickbox. He had done MMA. He was a good, tough dude. And he took it to Rick Steiner in the ring, and everyone was like, "Holy shit! You just like schooled Rick Steiner." But he had that ability to not, to respect the guy that's been in the business longer. But also, it's like, bro, you're not gonna take liberties with me here. And a lot of people, that's where having that strong style again, that mentality of this is the fight, and if we want to work, we can work. But if you want to fight, hell, I mean, let's have at it.
Yeah, and I've actually had that conversation with guys in the locker room. I had one guy that the promoter told us what he wanted, and the guy came to me and he said, "No, I've got so and so family member that's came in from out of town. I can't do that tonight. I'm going over. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that," and proceeded to tell me how we were going to rework the match, which was completely off what was said. And I looked at him, and he'd been in the business. At that time, I was probably 5 years in, and he had been in the business maybe 7 or 8. Not too much longer than I had. And I'm like, "Look, I'll make you look great. Let's give him the finish that he's asked for, because that's what you do. When the office tells you to do it, you do it.
Right.
That's the way it goes." And he just kept protesting, and then he finally looked at me and he said, "All right, fine, we'll do it your way." "Yeah, all right, thanks, man, cool. We knew the finish. This was what we were going for. We go out. We got in the ring, and if it was 35, 40 seconds in, I'm being generous. I mean, it was like right off the bat. He came across, we were getting ready to lock up, and he cold cocks me. I mean, we're going for the lockup, and instead of reaching into the lockup, bam, right across the jaw and the nose. Well, I took a knee. I'm like, okay, that was unexpected. I start to stand up. He cracks me across the face one more time with a forearm. And I told him, I have what I call the baseball rule. You get 2 strikes. Ain't gonna be no 3.
Mm-hmm.
And that was his 2 strikes. And I told him, I was like, chill out. And I looked up, and as I turned my head, I'm covering, and he's coming in, getting ready to drive in with like another forearm shot. And the second he did, I pulled in, and I literally caught him with an elbow in the gut and folded him in half.
Mm-hmm.
I heard the wind leave his body because he was coming in all wild and, wide open. So I popped him. I snatched a headlock, and I pulled him in close to me. And as you well know, there's headlocks and there's head holds.
Mm-hmm.
What pro wrestling uses for the most part is a head hold. It's there to kind of hold the guy in place, to restrain him without doing a lot of physical damage. A head lock is when you actually use the cutting bone of the arm, put it across the jawline, and it's more of a submission than it is anything else. You're going to get the man to do what you want.
Yes.
And I also at the time had learned a couple of tricks from a gentleman that is well known in catching professional wrestling by the name of Billy Wicks.
Yes, Billy Wicks.
He taught an old trick about just shifting the grip on the headlock, and instead of going palm down with your left hand that's around the head, go palm up so that your knuckles of your right hand are right there at the eye socket.
Uh-huh.
And he said that way if guys get cute with you can grind it into the eye socket a little bit, slow them down.
Uh-huh.
So let's just say I applied both of those techniques, and I put the cutting bone into the side of his face and into the jawline, took the knuckles, the top two knuckles on my other